What is this phenomenon? And you'll find that in some instances, it's a South African trader who finds that the Somali trader is out competing him. Whereas the South African small trader will sell a packet of 20 cigarettes, and it costs so much. The Somali trader opens the packet and sells one cigarette at a time, so that the very poor are able to buy one cigarette, whereas they don't have enough money to buy a packet. So obviously the Somali trader is going to have much more brisk business. I'm saying you have instances in this country where the South African traders who get outcompeted by the Somalis will then stand up and say, the Somalis are taking our jobs, and let's go and attack them. Nothing to do with that. It's just a businessman who's trying to protect his market. And it's called xenophobia. You know, you had an instance here 2 years ago, whenever. Nikolani, you'll remember this incident, of a Mozambican who gets stabbed in Alexander Township and dies, and one of our big newspapers here says xenophobia. He was a Mozambican. What had happened is this fellow was selling cigarettes in the street. And 3 young fellows, they come, one of them says, please I'd like to buy this packet. And so the seller said, the man says, okay, fine, he gives him the packet. And another one says, no, but can I also get a packet? Which he does. And then they walk away without paying. So of course he chases after them. He says, but you haven't paid. In the course of which there's a stabbing and he dies. It was ordinary township thuggery. If you know townships in the way I would, in the way that Tolani would, when I saw that thing, I knew very well, this is ordinary township thuggery. But it was reported as this was an xenophobic attack against the Mozambican. I don't even know that these thugs knew that this was a Mozambican, because even his name was South African. He was Sitole. So I'm saying that I think we need to treat this matter very carefully. Now let me say something, Professor Gamba. I was saying that there are many Nigerians who live here who don't get attacked by anybody. But there's a certain level of criminality. It doesn't affect only Nigerians. But the truth of the matter is that there are Nigerian criminals who are involved in drug dealing. And that's true. And there are Nigerian criminals who are involved in prostitution. And that's true. And you'll find, like in this incident now, in this area of Johannesburg, Rosettenville, where there's been attacks on people, it's been against criminals, not Nigerians. There's no South African who goes around chasing Nigerians because they're Nigerian. It doesn't exist. But they will act. They will act against this person, whether it's Nigerian or South African, who they say, this one is feeding our children drugs and destroying young lives. Then they report to the police. The police don't act. then the community takes the law into its hands. That will happen. It's incorrect to read that as being an offensive against Nigerians in South Africa, because it's not true. So I'm saying, when we talk about xenophobia and Afrophobia, we need to be very careful about it. This last thing, this demonstration to the South Africans, this last demonstration in Pretoria, which resulted in some violence, a group of people from one of the townships, Mamelodi, said, we want to march to the Ministry of Home Affairs to put a petition because we are complaining about lack of regulations with regard to immigrants and so on. So the municipality gave them permission to march. They were then joined by a group from another township, Atteridgeville. So they marched to the office, people from Mamelodi, delivered their petition, and went back home peacefully. Nothing happened. Didn't attack anybody. The group from Atteridgeville are the ones who attacked people. And the mayor of Pretoria, I don't know whether he was telling the truth. He said the people who were involved in that violence were people who had been involved in the same violence in August last year around the municipal elections. They didn't attack any foreigner, but they banned buildings and banned vehicles in Pretoria because of internal politics of the ANC. The mayor said it's the same group that was involved in these attacks now, which were against Somalis in Pretoria. What is that? I'm saying the marchers from Mamelodi did not attack any foreigner. The ones from Atteridgeville did. Why? To attach this label, xenophobic, in many instances results in our not studying the issue in order to understand what are the sources of this thing so that you are able to deal with it. I'm really trying to discourage this idea that there is an African population in South Africa which hates other Africans. That population doesn't exist, not in this country. There are instances of this violence which we need to understand. The sources and the origins of this thing. Who organizes this thing? Is it spontaneous? What sparks it? There are many stories I can tell about this. But the central point I'm making is that the South Africans need to get into a serious study of this phenomenon to understand it properly in order to be able to intervene correctly to stop it. To sit under this kind of umbrella thing, there is xenophobia, it's not going to help you to solve the problem. Because I'm saying that labeling of this means you walk away from carrying out the task of investigating this thing. Because it's easy to say, these South Africans, they hate other Africans. That won't solve anything. But once you understand, why are the people in Rosettenville acting in this way? Then you come face to face with the level of criminality in this area. including the failure of the police to deal with it. Which is why the people then go out into the street and do their own thing. And therefore, to solve the problem of Rosettenville is to understand it better, not to give it its label. I think it's wrong, because it's